always come fired up to these panels, and then I'm always humbled by the level of the expertise. So why don't we start with first the key numbers of the cities. So today cities represents 3% of the total land surface, the total Earth surface, only 3%, but generates close to 80% of the CO2 emissions, consume close to 60% of the resources. Today we have close to 6 people out of 10 living in cities globally, and it will be something like 8 out of 10 by 2050. So like the battle to save the world basically will happen, I think, in cities. It's in cities that we can win or lose it. And so cities are full of problems: traffic congestion, waste management, a lot of problems, urban densification, etc. So I would like to ask to all of the panelists, what is, according to you, the number one priority that you focus at your firm? Starting off maybe with you, Teresa, what is the number one problem of cities?
I think for us, the number one problem is, as probably obvious after the presentation, is the decarbonization, because this actually addresses different sectors, and therefore for the decarbonization we need to have the clean energy transition by having a higher efficiency and improving the system in general. Of course, also the climate adaptation and mitigation is connected with the decarbonization, because if we can achieve a higher sustainability within the environment, it's also a higher well-being for the society, and therefore contributing to the overall objective. I think for the decarbonization in general, the mobility transition is a key where, as shown in the graphic, many people can contribute by themselves. So it's up to us to do the decision if we want to go by plane, by bus, or use a car. And therefore, I think concepts like the 15-minute city and the super block concept, that you can have less traffic within the city and trying to rearrange the public space for the society, those are topics that actually can go along well with the decarbonization, and therefore I think also addresses the challenges of a city.
Okay, thank you. Delphine, what's your opinion?
Yes, well, I'm just the proof of what Teresa is saying, because at the beginning of the project Rootlands with the stakeholders, in fact, we committed to carbon neutrality for the district, and we really didn't know what we were committing to 7 years ago. And in fact, it has been my job to really make all the elements that could lead us to this carbon neutrality, even if we don't have to talk about carbon neutrality, but at least decarbonization. Of course, the first was the mobility issue, how with the public and the transportation ministry, how to put our cities at the heart of public transportation, and then really to tackle the methodology of incorporated carbon life cycle assessment. In fact, in France, there is regulation, RE2020, who is going to put everyone okay on how to do it. In Luxembourg, in fact, we're pioneering in saying, okay, we are going to use this methodology, and it is really the way we are going to decrease the impact of our carbon footprint up to 50% between 2020 to 2035 for Rootlands.
Okay.
And in fact, with the technology nowadays, that means if the technology and innovation is not really focusing on how we can do this, we would have to do in 2030, all our permits will be on wood building. So yes, in order to achieve this. So yes, we are really keen in seeing innovation in this, in the material part.
Side note, if I may, because we speak a lot about decarbonization. I had recently a conversation with Andreas Kaiser, the founder of Alpha Development, one of the most innovative development of Denmark, and she was saying decarbonization is not important to us because at the world level, decarbonization should not be the priority. It should be biodiversity, because the carbon problem, we will be able to solve it one way or the other. But when species are dead, they are dead. And so they showed me a graph, mind-blowing, from Oxford University, I think, showing the amount of species which are in danger. And so there was a big peak, which was when the dinosaurs died, and we are in the second big
Yes, I
peak
know.
now in the history
Definitely.
of the Earth. And so they were saying, solution could be that we should offset carbon, that we should basically plant trees in areas to protect species, so that way we can do two impacts: decarbonization and protect biodiversity. So I thought this was brilliant. But anyway, Cesar, what do you think?
Um, there was a bigger extinction that the dinosaurs one, the big extinction they call, was provoked by volcanoes with throwing trash to the atmosphere. So we are basically reproducing what the volcanoes did in this big extinction. I see very different concerns here and in the south of Europe. Decarbonization is the 15th concern in south of
Yeah.
Europe. I look like a crazy guy talking all the time about sustainability. The you know, as we are part of the European Union, the politics knows that they have to implement measures in order to reduce CO2, but the measures are not being implemented by now, and we are very late in this aspect. We have developed buildings with timber. We are developing a very big building with timber, and we always offer the developer, okay, do you want a zero carbon footprint building and so on? But the reality is that the market hasn't adopted this yet. And talking about cities, I love cities. Civilization comes from civitas, from the name of the city in Greek. So is the most efficient way of generating richness to have a complete and social life. And I was visiting Tokyo 2 years ago, 38 million people. This city works like a clock. It's massive, but most 90% of the people go in public transportation. It's a safe city. You can walk on the streets. They have life in the streets. So I think the cities are not the criminals of this history, right?
We'll speak about examples of cities after. I would like to jump on a more controversial question, maybe, which is so maybe libertarians or ultra libertarians will never agree with this, but I have the feeling, in my opinion, that public authorities and cities and administrations have a certain role to play in people happiness, because in the design that the city have and the features that the building has, etc., have an impact on people happiness. And there is a study I saw a couple of years ago saying that the bigger the city is, the less happy people tend to be. Maybe there are exceptions, etc. And you're more an expert than I, and I'm happy to have your opinion. And also, the word happiness index shows that the older we get, the more frequent unpleasant feelings we have, the less happy we are, in a nutshell. So food for thought. We have always to be like nice to older people. They are less happy than us. And so my question for you is, what do you think the role of architecture and real estate is in, and the role and the responsibility in the people, like the citizens, the inhabitants of the city is? Starting off maybe with you, Delphine, quickly, and then I'm very happy to have also Cesar.
I think that I won't use the word happy, the real estate that makes you happy, no way. But at least we focused on well-being and health. And that was one of the concepts we developed for the urban district. And now, well, I've talked about the WELL certification that helped us to define what was meaning to be well in a district. So you need to have all the public utilities, the pharmacies, the medical center, a small retail shop. So all those services are needed, the sports, leisures, and being able to really to have a very vegetalized environment. And well, for us, we focus on these and we try to make it objective with this kind of criteria. And I will not be more ambitious than this.
Okay, thank you. Cesar, you were saying no, no, no.
No. Because I am from a very small city, I was very happy when I was young. The reality is that my parents didn't have the kids growing with them because we were to study outside because they don't have this university
Yeah.
in-house. And the list of, I have come from the top city in the world in the happiness rank, that is Malaga, but the second is Barcelona, I think, or the fifth is Valencia. They are big cities.
Yeah.
And your happiness is also related to have good architecture, good services, museums, the stadium of your team, and you know, I think I love big cities. I live in a very big city, that is Madrid. That is also chosen by people from all around the world to live. I have clients that have houses in all around the globe and choose Madrid to live because it's very safe, the climate is good, the cultures and the gastronomy are fantastic. So I don't think that maybe in the post-industrial era that was when the cities were absolutely collapsed, polluted, dirty, and so on. I think right now we have very good examples of big cities with happy people that have provide you a very rich social life and that you don't have in a small city. From a very small city.
Thank you. I would like to speak about the collaboration public-private because I can take advantage of the fact that we have a diverse panel in terms of public-private. So I think each of you play an important role in the transformation of the city. And so from the design perspective, from the investment perspective, the development perspective, from the research, public regulation side. And so my question to you is, what is the biggest challenge today preventing you from achieving a complete vision, integrated vision, a real collaboration? So why is it so hard to collaborate, public-private? And so starting off maybe with you, Teresa?
Yes, I think there are several reasons. I think sometimes it's just that there's a clear objective and people know how they need to reach it, but they don't know the way how to do it. And also it's a conflict of interest because from the public side, of course, they have different agendas than from the private side. And for the private side, it's, as we heard also in the morning, the return of investment, like does it pay off from a personal investment to be part of that joint venture? And from the public side, it's sometimes the impact on the society rather than the return of investment. And therefore, I think it's this conflict of interest, but also it's always the question not just saying if it actually pays off if we invest it, but how much are the costs if we don't invest? For example, for climate change, last week we had a discussion with colleagues, if we don't invest in climate adaptation for critical infrastructure, the costs that will arise by having extreme weather events and not being prepared are so much higher. And therefore, I think it's not just a matter of cities, but also about energy providers, public transport providers, and so many more private stakeholders that need to be part of that change. And therefore, the public-private partnership is crucial and the key to actually allow us to have an urban transformation following those steps.
Clear? Clear. Delphine, on your side?
Well, the partnership with the public, the municipality and the public ministries is absolutely key. When we are talking about urban development, you can build a building without partnership, but really at the land development, it's key. It's not only key because they are giving the permits. We are buying the land, but we needed them to give the permits, to give the orientation even more. In fact, the municipality put a constraint of 30%. We considered it as a constraint 30% of affordable housing within our district, but in fact it is an opportunity. We have got 30% order that are bringing cash to the business model, and nowadays is key for our development. So yes, it's difficult mostly because of the length of the regulations, the authorization. That is, and therefore this is very difficult for us to stand and to finance the development. But definitely the partnership with the public partners is key for the success.
Thank you.
It's fun how different is this collaboration and this relation in different countries. For example, in the Caribbean, you have you develop one development, and you can negotiate with the authority to have one level more, two more, to place, an airport, to place, it's very agile because they don't have all this regulation we have in Europe. So they have less guarantees, but it's really agile. And for example, in UK and USA, you have to recap the authorization of the neighbors to develop something. So this is something good, but also is slow down all the process. Is a very good thing. You have to give images to these people, convince them that you are developing something good. In the different countries, it's different, but it depends on people. The impact of a good politician that wants to have this collaboration with the private sector is very important. And for me, the key role of the administration is to reward the good things and to punish the bad things. If you do that, if sustainability, you reward sustainability, you make it profitable, it will work alone. Otherwise, you will be like always pushing and
So incentives.
Maybe incentives in buildability ways. More buildability if you are sustainable, less buildability if you're
Bonus
with
malus.
concrete. Yeah. Different rights for different levels of responsibility.
So now let's discuss a bit the concept of a smart city, which is totally obsolete, that never worked. But I remember in 2020 there was a big study from Forst and Sullivan, explaining that the smart city market will reach by 2025, in a few months, a market of $2.45 trillion, like a huge market opportunity, and it never worked. And so I want to have your opinion on why do you think that the concept of smart city never succeeded? Integrating a bit mobility, energy, a bit real estate, and all of that combined to make a city level sustainable, customer centric, and all of that. What's your opinion, Delphine?
Well, I'm not sure that this is such a failure. I think it's always the same with technology. How and to whom it creates value, and the whole model. Well, it can stand like the IBM model that monitoring everything for the municipality, because in fact the municipality doesn't monitor everything. So where we find, in fact, is what we are creating value. For example, for mobility management, I think that there are quite a lot of cities that are now using the tool in order to monitor the mobility within their town. But for example, for also smart energy infrastructure, we are just doing a research project, in fact, in order to create data and to manage the electricity needs and energy needs within the district in order to monitor the efficiency and lower the needs of power and energy. And so, yes, there will be smart infrastructures within the city, but for needs that are very well identified and that create value to identify stakeholders. And if you are mixing different values, mobility, energy, leisures or community, then you don't find the business model. And even at the smart building level, for me, it's as a real estate developer, it's already difficult to really find out to whom I create really the value and he's ready to pay for it. So
Yeah.
this is what we have to focus on it. But yes, the technology is absolutely needed in order to monitor the resources.
So in a nutshell, you said you have a triangular problem. You have someone who pays, someone who decides, someone who benefits.
Yes,
And it's not
definitely.
always the same person.
Yes, just like start a business model, in fact.
Yeah.
So
Cesar, what's your opinion on why it never worked, if it never worked?
Maybe it was early for this technology, the system. In the future, I'm sure that the cities will be smart. We will collect a lot of data. We will analyze with artificial intelligence in order to improve the quality of people. There, for example, in offices, it's really common to have a smart office. Not in residential, but in offices, top offices are absolutely smart. So I think it's a good idea, but his time hasn't been reached yet. And
Thank you.
he will.
Teresa, you want to add a couple of notes?
Yes, I actually agree very much with what Delphine said about who is benefiting from the concept of smart city, because from a technological point of view, the concept works well, but for the implementation, there is the real barrier, and because the local authorities need to translate this concept for use cases that their cities and also the citizens can profit by implementation, which costs a lot of money. And the commitment and the trust of citizens is key that this concept can actually work, because you've mentioned it works well in offices, because with the data privacy, it's not a big issue because the company accepts and therefore it can be rolled out. But for the private aspects of smart city, you always need the commitment and the trust and the involvement of citizens that actually this concept can work. And then I think it's a matter of use cases defined from cities, and then it needs to be aligned with their strategies, and also the policies need to be aligned with the smart city concept in order to have the real implementation and the added value on the long term.
And you have mandates, electoral mandates every 4-6 months, a year. So, okay. I would like to do something not planned. So, if you agree, I will still have a couple of questions for you, and then I would like to open up the floor for people. So, think about questions if you want. We will maybe give you a mic if you want to have any question for them. So, in a second. But before this, I think. I would like to hear your thoughts on the climate adaptation problem, because last week we had a huge storm, like a typhoon in Vietnam that killed a lot of people, that erased from the map villages. You had mud, floods, you had a lot of problems like this. A year ago exactly in Slovenia, you had the biggest flood of the history of the country that killed people. We had something in Germany, something in Belgium, etc., etc. So climate change is happening. So it's too late for climate mitigation. Now it's climate adaptation. And I would like to have your point on. Do you agree that it's too late, or do you think that we can still mitigate? Because you spoke about decarbonization, and how can we quickly adapt cities to the big risks? Because imagine, in Vietnam you have people that spared during 25 years, and then they bought something, and then in one night it's gone for good. It's a bit crazy. So Teresa, what's your opinion on this?
I think it's not too late for climate mitigation. I think it needs to be a combination of both. So you have climate mitigation where it's possible, and climate adaptation where you already have the built environment. And in terms of the short-term solutions, the nature-based solutions are a concept that actually supports city in improving the thermal comfort during heat waves, but also having a higher resilience in terms of heavy rainfall events with green roofs, green facades, and trees along the city. I think to understand the long-term impact, it's crucial to to have a status quo evaluation of the existing environment, to run climate models and see the long-term effect, to be able to have future-proof strategies evolving and action plans which actually allow you to define measurements which are future-proof and resilient for different situations. Because before you can come up with a long-term strategy, you need to understand the boundary conditions, which are different for each and every city, and also the climate models, which are on a global scale, have different resolutions. So you need to zoom in, have dynamic climate models to understand the dynamics of a city, because some regions, like the alpine regions, are affected more than other regions by climate change. So therefore, once you understand the vulnerabilities and the hazards that can actually affect your city, you come up with a strategy. And this is unfortunately not a copy-paste solution, because many cities struggle with identifying their individual attributes they already have, because you've mentioned Spain and Madrid and Valencia, and the city of Vienna has a different setup of a built environment and also typologies. So therefore, it's something that each and every city needs to address. And those climate model and global warming scenarios can support you in understanding the future impacts and therefore coming up with the strategy.
Yeah, we can't improve what we don't measure. We have to start by measuring. Cesar?
There is a very interesting graphic from the NASA that says how the average temperature of the planet has evolved last 200 years or 300 years, and the temperatures we have now has happened before. The hottest summer of this century is the summer of 62, the year 62. But the problem is that we have increased 0.8 degrees in the last 40 years, and the sun is decreasing the energy that flows to the earth. So the impact of the people is really small comparing with the sun, and the sun now is compensating the degrees that it should be rising the temperature. If the sun enters in an energetic cycle, we'll have a really big problem. I don't know if we are able to reverse it, or I don't know if the Earth was programmed to just burn in 2 centuries. I don't know, because we have this atomic bomb that is providing us this energy, and I don't know why it's constant, the energy of the sun. I don't know. But the most concerning thing is that the temperature is increasing and the radiation of the sun is decreasing, and this hasn't happened ever. You know, ever.
Delphine, if you want to add one word or 2 words.
Yes, well, definitely, I think that regulation is very important to in fact, to drive also the industry, and we have to stick to the climate mitigation program for the real estate, and the taxonomy in Europe is really driving us. For example, now the climate risk studies are compulsory with the asset, with what we are developing as new buildings. When we are doing new districts, we do this kind of studies. And in fact, we think about the climate adaptation. Right now, we cannot plant the plants we used to have. We even can plant lavender in Luxembourg. So there is completely new kind of plants we have to use to the vegetalization. We have to think about protecting from the heat. And yes, we adopt all those climate adaptation measures now in our program. And well, definitely it's not liberal, but regulation really helps to really conduct the industry in the way.
Thank you. Now let's do improvisation. Is there any question from the audience? If you want to ask to 3 brilliant people that I've had the honor to invite here, do you have any question?
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Vishnia, and puedo hablar en español. Te digo la.
Qué bien.
My question is a little bit of regarding demography. we know and we see that, especially in Europe, we see older people. The people live longer, but sometimes the body doesn't go as the age, and the people need a little bit more of a concern regarding, the building,
Accessibility.
accessibility and things regarding the city. Are you taking this in mind? Is something, the demography issue is something that has concern in your thinking?
Yes, accessibility is something that wasn't taken into account a couple of decades ago, and right now all the regulation is pushing to these all accessible spaces. Um, Also, there is the real estate business is, and in the south of Spain is a very good place for senior living. It's it's a branch of the real estate that never goes strong as the expectations. But yes, accessibility not only for all people, but is a concern, I think. Um,
Well, yes, demography is part of how we can plan and program because in fact, what is the need? What do you need? Large flats, small flats, a lot of rooms, bedrooms, and in fact, sometimes, at least in Luxembourg, regulation is a little bit lagging behind because the regulation is asking for large flats, while in fact it's too costly, not affordable. And in Paris, we can live at 5 in 100 square meters. In Luxembourg, you need at least 200 meters. And definitely, and even there is a lot of people, single people in Luxembourg, so we don't need large flats. And therefore, yes, demography should really be, we have to stick to the need and to be quite saving our resources according to the needs. We don't need large flats, we need flats at the right size. For example, in demographics. And here, yes, there is also the
You want to add two seconds answer?
Yes, actually I would mention the Smart Food Gender Plus project, which actually identifies vulnerable groups, not just focusing on the elderlies, but also single mom households and children and their different perspectives on the cities. And for example, it was mentioned before, accessibility to supermarkets, pharmacies, doctors, how different vulnerable groups can access a city, in which speed and which requirements they have to actually assess the built environment in terms of improving it.
Genius, and it was a very good question. Any other question?
Unfortunately, I haven't been following your presentations for the total. One thing that I'm wondering is how, well, the transformation will be there. We know that we have to transform the cities. Have you also been talking about the financing of how these transformations can be done? Because what we see here in Belgium, that is much more expensive to live in the cities than to live abroad and to live outside the cities. Transformation is needed in the cities, but as long as it's cheaper to live outside the cities, this transformation is difficult. It's much more expensive with all the regulations and the extra taxes that they ask for the buildings in the cities than outside the cities. So perhaps a strange question.
no,
I don't know if there are examples in other countries of how they do the financing of these transformations.
I think France is a very good example of city transformation. They reward the sustainable renewal of the buildings. They give extra buildability. They have extra less taxes to these buildings. So this is what I mentioned before. If the administration rewards, if you do the right thing, you will do it. If you are not rewarded and you are a very good person, you will do it, but not everybody is a very good person with these resources, with this will, and this capability of developing the transformation. I have one anecdote. In the building I used to live, I have one flat there. We have a gas oil heater, and it was broken. We have to pay for a new one, and I say all the neighbors, hey, we can get a cooler and solar panels. We can insulate the facade, and you will spend 10% of the energy you spend right now in heating, and we will have 75% of the investment covered by the state, and we changed the heater because it was a little bit more cheaper that transforming the building, and they were gonna win value in their homes because one home renewed is more expensive than the other one, but just the gap between the small renovation and the big renovation made my effort to transform the building. So you will have to do everything very easy, very cheap, and you will have to say this. And if you don't do this, you will have an extra cost in the future and to move on. If it's not profitable.
I'm very sorry. We need to be respectful of the time, and so it is the end of our session.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Please give me a warm round of applause.
Thank you.